Hi, everybody. It's Ann Patchett from Parnassus Books, but actually Ann Patchett from my house. And I am here with my friend Madeline Miller, who is actually my friend Emmy Miller. Hi, Emmy.
Hi, how are you? I'm so
I
excited to be here.
I am so great. I'm so great because I'm getting to see you. And I just want to tell everybody what we're doing. So this is a celebration conversation of 10 years of the First Editions Club. And the very first book we chose for First Editions Club was Song of Achilles. So not only are we coming up on our 10th anniversary, you're coming up on yours. And so we had this great idea. We were thinking, what can we do? How can we celebrate? And we decided to celebrate by having a conversation with you, because 10 years is amazing. So much has happened.
So much has happened, and that the fact that Song of Achilles was chosen for the First Editions Book Club was life-changing for me, life-changing in so many ways. I feel like it got the book into so many readers' hands, but also it was such an honor because, and you know this, I have gushed to you so many times, but you were one of the writers that I read and held so closely all through my college years when I was trying to convince myself I could become a writer. And so having your bookstore and you choose the book for this was just, it blew my mind. I was so honored. I was in tears when I found out. So I am just still so thrilled.
It's so sweet. And heaven knows it really made us look like the smartest people in the world. 10 years later, it's still making us look like the smartest people in the world. So what I really wanted to do is just kind of take a walk down memory lane and talk about the origins of this book and how we became friends. So one of the things about this book that I love that I bet nobody knows anymore, which is it sold in the UK and then not in the US when
Yeah.
you first came out. So we have the same UK publisher, Bloomsbury, Alexandra Pringle. Alexandra sent me the book. She loved it. I think maybe more than anything she's ever published. Donna Tartt sent me the book. Donna was also a great friend of Alexandra's and was one of her authors. And I read it. I loved it. And I said, of course I'll blurb it. Who's publishing it in the US? And you also had a really good deal in Germany too, is what I remember. So it was like you were taking Europe by storm.
Yeah, the US was not so sure.
How old did that happen?
I mean, it published later in the US, and I think it was almost maybe 9 months later than it came out, and I think it was they wanted to kind of save it for that March area where it wouldn't be going up against anything big, which I was grateful for. I didn't want to be going up against anything big. Oftentimes in September, that's, of course, when the really established literary authors come out with their books. And so, but yeah, it was very interesting. I think people were having trouble sort of getting their hands on it in terms of what it was exactly. The dreaded conversation about comps, like what is this book
Right.
like?
What is your comp? The Iliad, the Odyssey?
Right. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I couldn't come up with one. I was kind of like, well, it's kind of, I mean, it's, I kind of thought about Geraldine Brooks's March, but like, God forbid that I should compare myself to, like, I feel like that is, that felt like hubris to say that. But, in the sense that it was a literary adaptation, but then that was very confusing to people because that book is about Little Women and the Civil War.
Right.
So that didn't, but the idea of sort of taking a character and making the story about them. So in that sense, but then that didn't get it, the fact that there's a gay love story at the center of the book, it didn't get at the ancient Greek aspect. So I had no idea. I couldn't find, and I think that was sort of causing some nerves in the US. Although both my editor and my agent were incredibly supportive, I think it was just kind of hard for them to know how to how to talk to people about it.
I have this great memory of then getting, after I had written the book. Oh, there's a good, hey, let's reveal today. I actually wrote the book. After I had written the blurb, like the day after, I got a galley from Lee Boudreau, who was your editor then at the US, in the US at Echo. And Lee is somebody that I've known for a long time. And I find her taste to be impeccable. She is one of the editors that if Lee sends me a book, I know I'm going to love it. And it was such a wonderful moment to say to her, oh, that book? Oh, I've already blurbed that. Here, you can use this blurb for that one too. Yeah. So did you go on tour in Europe for this book?
I did a little bit. I did one very nice indie bookstore event. And but it was all very small. And I think, you know, I'm not sure. I was nervous. I didn't know how to do any of that. I had actually a slightly bigger tour here in the US, although no one came to it. I mean, it was, you know, it was the old, like 2 people in the audience.
I remember those. Yeah.
So, you know, I really appreciate that they sent me. It was amazing to get to see the indie bookstores. I mean, that was the highlight, and get to speak to the booksellers. And I think in an LA bookstore once there was literally one person sitting down in the audience, and I thought, if I can just make one other person sit down, I will see this as a success. So I gave my A+ 110% event, and one other person did sit down. So I felt like this is a win.
You know, those moments, no matter how hard they are also like the fabric of your life.
Yes.
And I remember going on my first 2 book tours and that same thing happening, going into the audience and sitting down with people and saying, let's just talk. Yeah. One of my favorite stories in the world, Alan Gurganis once gave a reading and 2 people came. And he said, I'm just going to take you out to dinner. And the 3 of them went out to dinner.
Oh, I love that.
They got married.
What?
The two people who came to hear out, they were like, I'm an English teacher. I'm a librarian. I live here. Oh my God, really? Because I go to that library. Oh, I live around the corner. Oh, and they married.
Oh my gosh, that is the best story.
So I just kind of feel like, you never know what's going to happen when you show up at a book event. So when you came to Parnassus for your book event for Song of Achilles, you're going to die when I show you this.
Oh my gosh, that picture.
I had this in a frame. Now you might ask, why, Anne, have you kept this framed picture of me for 10 years? Because it was a frame of a picture of my grandmother. And I wanted a frame to put this. I tore it out of a magazine. I don't even remember what magazine it was in. Do you?
It was like T Mag. I think it was T Magazine.
Oh, that makes sense.
Fashion. Yeah.
That makes sense. The New York Times T Magazine.
So
I tore it out of the magazine. I took my grandmother's picture out of the frame, put your picture in. Then after the event, I went home and I put my grandmother's picture on top of it. And this morning, 10 years later, I thought, I wonder if that picture of Emmy is still in the frame under my grandmother's picture.
That is amazing.
Yes, look how beautiful.
They told me to take off my glasses, so I couldn't see anything because I really can't see without my glasses. So I was there, and I was also wearing like insane heels. You would not believe. And I was like, but the heels aren't in the picture, right? And they're like, no, but you have to wear them. And I was like, okay, I can't see. I'm in these heels. Like, I hope I don't have to move.
I can't see, I can't walk. Yeah. And I thought I was writing literary fiction. So what the hell is this about?
That was one of the most amazing experiences. It was totally, but I feel like one of the things, so I have to go back to your blurb of Song of Achilles, because once again, like that, when Alexandra said that Anne Patchett had blurbed Song of Achilles, I thought I had like passed out and I was dreaming. Because that was that was like, I could never have hoped for that. And it meant so much to me. And I feel like it was so important to the book. I feel like it made such a huge difference. It really did. And then I think I've told this story before, so stop me if
You
I
haven't told it to the people who are watching, so go for it.
But I went to go see your event for State of Wonder in Porter Square Books in Cambridge, and you had blurbed it, and but I didn't tell you because I didn't want to, presume or
And we hadn't met.
Yeah, we hadn't met.
Point.
So I was in the audience. I was so excited about State of Wonder. Couldn't wait to read it. I love that book. And someone asked you what books you would recommend that people should be reading, and you recommended Song of Achilles. And I was like, I have entered a dream world. I am standing here in the audience. Anne Patchett, my literary idol, is recommending Song of Achilles, and I'm right here in front of it. And then you looked directly at me and you said, "Oh, there she is. That's Madeline."
And do you know why?
Yeah, but at the time, it was because my husband was standing behind me and going like, "There she is." But I didn't know that. I thought you were magic. I was like, "Oh my God, she is psychic," or so anyway, for a moment, I was really willing to believe that you had like legit magical powers in that moment, but it was my husband who was helping.
It was so dear. And was your husband your husband then?
He wasn't. He was not. He was my boyfriend. Maybe I can't remember if we were engaged then yet, but
yeah.
Yeah.
He always, boy, you want to talk about your biggest fan. He made such an incredible impression. His radiant love for you, it's really something to behold. Really a wonderful thing. Yeah. So,
I'm very
okay.
grateful. Yeah, he's always my first reader, so I feel very lucky.
Yeah. I had never noticed this, but when I was looking at both of your books this morning, I realized that they were both dedicated to him, which I would say as well they should be. That's really lovely. So I had this memory when you came to Parnassus for Song of Achilles. You told a great story, which maybe you have told 1,000 times, but if you can, I want you to tell it again. Maybe you told it the first time at Parnassus, which was about how you started directing when you were in school, and then how that led you to writing a novel, because it was just a brilliant story.
Yes, well, so I was writing and reading your books and reading everything I could get my hands on about writing. And then I was studying classics over here, but it never occurred to me to put those two things together. I was writing totally contemporary stuff, and then I was studying classics. And my senior year of college, a friend of mine asked me to co-direct a production of Troilus and Cressida, which is Shakespeare's version of the Iliad. Now, I didn't know, and talk about hubris, I didn't know anything about directing. I didn't really know that much about Shakespeare either, other than having read some in classes. But I knew the Iliad. And, this was Shakespeare's version of Ajax and Achilles and Cassandra and Helen and all these characters. And I thought, well, this will be really fun. I can bring the Iliad part, he can bring the theater part, and this will be a good combination. And so I started working on this, and it was the most revelatory and electrifying, intellectual, just pure joy experience of my life up to that point. Turns out I'd been born to be a theater person, as long as I was not on the stage.
Right.
And it was so thrilling for the first time to get my hands in the story and get to shape these characters, get to, work on the scenes with Achilles and Patroclus together, because they have a very intimate and powerful scene in Song of Achilles. Although, I'm sorry, not Song of Achilles, in Troilus and Cressida, oh my gosh, in Troilus and Cressida, although mostly Shakespeare's making fun of them because he's making fun of everybody, but they do have this sort of one, and getting to direct those moments and shape the way, Cassandra's arc was, and talk to all the different actors about how their characters should be, was so exciting. that when the play was over, I didn't want to stop. I was like addicted. And I had been planning to write my master's thesis on interpretations of Achilles and Patroclus as lovers through the centuries. So you know where all that research went. All of a sudden,
Right.
What I want to say about Achilles and Patroclus, I want to say in a novel. The argument I want to make about them is not an academic argument, it's an emotional argument. And I want to let go of having to prove things. And I want to make this argument in the form of a novel. And that was really sort of that summer, was right after the play ended, was when I began Song of Achilles. And it then took me 10 years to figure out how to write the novel, but that was the push.
And did you stick with theater?
I did. So it turns out I love theater. And I ended up specializing in directing Shakespeare plays, and I founded a Shakespeare program, both for high school students, and then I founded one at the local the Philly Shakes Festival here for early career artists, and I just loved it. And I feel like I learned so much from theater about writing. I feel like I learned dialogue and sort of pacing. It was such an incredible kind of writing workshop or storytelling workshop, really. And it was nice because when you do theater, you have help, right? You have all these other people helping you tell the story. And so in a way, it was a wonderful kind of jungle gym for me to practice some of these skills with, the actors bringing stuff in. But there's also something really fun about writing where it's just you in control. You don't have to. So it was kind of nice to do both.
I often think that if I had my education to do over again, I would study nothing but theater.
Oh, yeah.
That I would have studied acting, I would have studied directing for exactly that. Not only for writing a novel, but just for living your life, for doing interviews, for speaking in bookstores, for dealing with the world. I think that acting would have been a tremendously helpful skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever study acting? Did you ever act?
I have truly terrible stage fright. I mean, like overwhelming stage fright, but I love directing. And I did take my senior year of college. I decided to force myself to take a public speaking class, which was through the acting. It was through kind of theater and acting. And I did it because I was going to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I thought I need to be able to speak to a group of people. And I still think about some of the things I learned. Don't shuffle your feet. Don't talk while you're writing on a blackboard with your back to the audience. I mean, some of it is like kind of basic stuff, but I didn't know it then. And I was very shy. And so part of the program was we had to deliver 7 speeches to our classmates, which was terrifying to me, but was amazing practice because everyone was doing it and everyone was scared. Everyone who was in this class was there because they thought they were terrible at it. And so I'm really glad I did it. I had to be on the waiting list all 4 years of college to get into it, but it was really fun. Now, did you do any acting or have you collaborated on any plays or anything?
No. Have you ever met Elizabeth Strout?
I haven't. I would love to.
Liz is, I don't know if she's shy. She's from Maine. You know how people are from Maine. You don't know if they're shy or they're just super to themselves, but she's very to herself. And she took a stand-up comedy class.
Wow.
As an adult, like when she was trying to write her first novel, because she said it was as far away from anything she could ever imagine doing. And I have such respect for that.
Wow, that is amazing. That stand-up comic, that sounds terrifying. It's my dream. And I think, once the pandemic is over or we have moved on to a more controlled part of it anyway, I would love to take a class in clown with Christopher Bays, who was a teacher at Yale School of Drama. But I feel like clown is this amazing sort of study where you can disinhibit yourself and just go with it. And so we'll see if I actually do it. But now I'm inspired by Elizabeth Strout that now I feel like, okay, if she can take that, I can take this clown class.
Honestly, yes. Liz doing stand-up, Emmy doing clown. That seems just, right on target. That would be amazing and really terrifying. So for both of these books, is there theater or film or miniseries or anything going on?
I hopefully Circe, the miniseries, is moving forward. It had been with HBO Max, but COVID kind of wiped a bunch of stuff out. But the production company that owns the rights is moving forward, and so hopefully I'll have some news to announce about a miniseries for Circe. For Song of Achilles, nothing in the works, but it is my dearest hope that at some point I will adapt it for the stage. I would love to see it on the stage, and not necessarily in like a big, huge production, but just like everywhere, like like whoever wants to do it is what I would love, because I think Song of Achilles, I wrote it around this love story. I wanted it to have this incredibly intimate feeling, and I feel like theater and the intimacy of theater would really work well with Song of Achilles. And in a sense, it's a monologue.
Yes.
It's Patroclus delivering the story of his life. So I feel like it connects well to theater.
And I love the fact that you want to do it yourself. It's so smart.
Or controlling, one of those.
No. So one of my best friends is Miley Malloy, and Miley has really gotten into writing Netflix shows and doing film. And she said, all these years, I always thought that the thing to do was to option, and then who cares, and they'll do whatever they can do. And she was like, no, you can really do a better job yourself. Like, you really are the person who understands it. And the idea that you would write it and who knows, maybe direct it, would be spectacular.
Oh, thank you. Well, that makes me feel better, because I can't tell if I was being megalomaniacal, but.
Oh, that's great. No. I mean, I think it's that you're being smart, and who knows it better than you, and especially a book that's 10 years old, because you have all the distance you need. You're not, I'm betting, emotionally engaged. You're intellectually engaged. It's not like I've got to protect my baby. It's like I can really see something now that maybe you didn't see 10 years ago.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. That I look at the book in a very different way with the space of time. Absolutely. I think that is so true.
Yeah. So can you explain the whole TikTok thing?
I can't, because I am terrible at social media, but I am in awe of TikTokers. I am in total awe. I think it's amazing that there is this vibrant, thriving, and passionate book community. I love the theatrical aspects of TikTok. I haven't watched that many of them, but they're very performative in the best way. And I love that. And also they're very genuine and sometimes they're doing kind of fun things with cuts and juxtapositions in that theatrical way. And sometimes it's just people being so raw and open, and with that intimacy of what, so I am just, I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing.
One of the things that I love is that nobody can make it happen.
Yes.
Like, there's not a publisher on the planet who could concoct a scenario of what's happened to you, because these books did well, but 10 years later, they're still like selling like mad. Are they still selling like mad in other countries in the way they are here?
Song of Achilles, I don't think it's like mad, but I definitely think sales are up with Song of Achilles. A number of my foreign deals had lapsed because they weren't, for 10 years. And now there are publishers who want to republish Song of Achilles, which is kind of amazing. I'm totally blown away. And I think you're right that there's no way to make it happen.
No.
It was like a gift, serendipity. It just fell into my lap. I am so grateful for it, but I didn't cause it at all.
No, no, because if you knew how to cause it, everybody would be causing it.
So I'm
Okay.
just, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I think, and you know this, that having readers respond to a story that is so meaningful. I mean, I carried Song of Achilles with me for so many years, the 10 years it took to write it, but also, the 10 years of obsession with Achilles and Patroclus before that, and the Iliad, and seeing people respond to it and seeing it find readers. I mean, there's no feeling like that. It's humbling, it's overwhelming, it's filled with so much joy and gratitude. So it never gets old. It really does not.
You told me a really, really moving story about somebody coming up to you in a signing line. Will you tell that story?
I will. It was a young man who came up to me in the UK, and he said, "I love Song of Achilles. It helped me come out to my family." And he said, "I translated the first chapter into ancient Greek," and which just blew my mind, the amount of work that would take and the amount of focus and, thoughtfulness. And then he said, "I'd like to recite the first page of it to you in ancient Greek." And I said, "Please do that." And so he recited it. I was in tears. It was the most meaningful thing to see what it meant to him, and then to have him give that back to me as this amazing, humbling gift. So it's things like that leave me speechless.
And also that you're not only connecting with people in contemporary literature, encouraging young people to read, you're encouraging young people to turn back towards the classics, which is, again, if academia could figure out how to do it, what you have managed to do, and that wasn't necessarily your intention, but it's what you achieved. It's so incredible.
Well, thank you. I feel like Rick Riordan gets a big, with the Percy Jackson series, classics owes him a lot of thanks too.
Yeah, it's true. He's building them one kid at a time.
But one of the things, I do think that teaching was very significant for me, because I was teaching as I was writing a lot of Song of Achilles. I got my graduate degree, then I went to teach high school. And I think seeing my students respond to these stories and seeing both how incredibly responsive they were, that, sometimes students would come to the stories and think, "Oh, these are boring, these are old, these are not relevant, these are not about me."
Yeah.
And then sort of realize, oh my gosh, these stories are, they are about me. These are about passionate, really significant things, parents and children, and grief and rage and war and terrible mistakes. And, also, they're pretty spicy. They're, bestiality and necrophilia and all kinds of stuff. It always shocks me that we teach Greek myths to children. But it was amazing to see them react to those stories, and also to see the moments where they sort of felt shut out. So part of what I wanted to do in writing Song of Achilles was write a book where no one would feel shut out, because I never want anyone to feel like these stories aren't for them. The Iliad and the Odyssey were oral tradition. These were stories that were told to everybody by a bard, to the audience listening. And they were really meant to be for everybody. They were stories that parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles were telling children. And so in writing Song of Achilles, I feel like being a teacher helped me really kind of bring that out, this fact that I felt like these should be for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and then you did it again with Circe, which, by the way, we also picked for first edition.
Thank you.
Just, because we really, really know what we're doing. Can you talk about what you're doing now, what you're working on?
Sure. So I was working on The Tempest. That is
right. That's last I heard you were working on The Tempest.
That is my Shakespeare side. But in November, someone elbowed to the front of the line, which was this, I've always loved the story of Persephone, but I had never found my way through it. Persephone, I think, almost more than any other Greek myth. And this is true of most Greek myths, but Persephone is a kaleidoscope that, you know, every single turn shows you a different picture. And there's so many infinite ways to look at her story and Demeter and Hades in this sort of triangle and to approach it. And so I had loved the kaleidoscope aspect, but I had never kind of fixed on my one version of the story. And then in November, I sort of had this lightning bolt about Persephone and what I wanted to say about her. And
Wow.
so I set The Tempest aside, and I am now full steam ahead on Persephone. And I think The Tempest and Persephone are actually a little bit tangled up in my mind. So I think that I think The Tempest will eventually happen, but some of the things that I wanted to talk about in The Tempest, I think really belong in this Persephone story. So I'm very excited to be working on that. It's a little intimidating because it is maybe the most famous myth from Greek mythology that exists, but I'm very excited and very tentative about it.
That's so exciting because I can't think really of a book I would rather read than you writing about Persephone. Truly. I mean, just, it's really funny. I'm not joking, but you say that and like something lights up in me and I think, oh, that's what I want to read. Like you say The Tempest and I think, oh, that's really interesting. But you say Persephone and I'm like, oh, my heart, you know, that's great. So
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah, it would be hard, but we picked these books 6 years apart. I'm imagining you're not going to be ready with Persephone that we can keep on our 6-year cycle, but but please know that whenever you're finished, we'll be waiting for you. And I can't even say that I hope you'll come back because I know you'll come back. And we're just all looking forward to it so much. I cannot tell you how beloved you are at Parnassus, among our staff, among our customers. Everybody loves you best. And I said this to you, but I'm going to say it to everybody. The single nicest compliment I've ever had in my life was Roz Ellis, who is our mutual UK publicist, said, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Because now, okay.
What?
Anyway, that
Oh.
she liked the two of us the best.
Oh yeah.
I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, I'm positive.
Sorry.
All right. But all of Roz Ellis's other authors, she adores almost as much as the two of us. Okay. All right. I just really embarrassed myself. So maybe it's a good place to wrap it up. Emmy, thank you a million times for doing this. One of my other favorite memories of you, when your mother and your mother-in-law came to the free library to see me. Oh, that was so beautiful. That was so beautiful.
Well, speaking of that original blurb that you gave and the blurb for Circe, I mean, I feel like they both love you so much. I got them these precious days for Christmas for both of them, of course. But getting the blurb from you, I felt like my mom in particular, like she could relax. She was like, okay, Ann Patchett likes it. I can let go of my anxiety about my daughter.
You got this.
Yeah, so you just, the whole family loves you. And my feeling about Parnassus is so mutual. My trips there have been so magical, and I'm so grateful every time that I see the little sort of, where is Song of Achilles selling, where is Circe selling, and I see Nashville, I think,
yeah,
to Parnassus.
always. Okay, you get back to work because you're writing a book I really, really need to read. So much love from me, from all of us. And thank you for doing this. It's really been so much fun. I mean, we should just be Zooming and seeing each other more.
I totally agree. And thank you so much. Having both of these with the First Editions Club was amazing. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.